So I have to just start this conversation off by talking about a passion of ours between the two of us. It's Pops. And if you're unfamiliar with Pops, they're there in the background. He's got an amazing display. I have some in front of me. Favorite pop of all time.
I think the favorite pop of all time is my own that somebody custom made for me.
What? How cool. Wow.
That's
I
my
think you can only do that like in some of the studios, right?
So this was before. So now Funko officially has it. You can upload all your stuff and customize
Oh.
your own. This was before. I think this was a friend of mine had found an artisan and had designed it, and it very much looks like me. But this is a small portion of. There's over 100,
Yeah, I think
but
you
this
might
is
have.
how we bonded. This is how
Yeah.
we first sort of bonded when we met at work.
Yeah, so Rachel and I go back to Ring Central. I think it was just starting to return to office, so a lot of remote time, and we're on videos. And the first thing I see is this beautiful pop wall, and I'm like, wait, look at mine. Okay, favorite for me is I'm a big Tony Stark fan. Sometimes I
Yep.
try to channel like his look,
Yep.
but I love the this is the oh, I'm drawing a blank, but from the last one, Thanos. So he's got
Oh, the
the
end game.
rings on, and yeah, end game
Yeah.
flashing. Yeah, that's probably my favorite. And he sits right above me every day to let me know that it's just a matter of time before I take over the world. Okay, welcome to the show, Rachel. Please introduce yourself for the audience.
So I'm Rachel Royds. I'm currently a social media senior manager at Dayforce, and Jeff and I met years ago at another tech company, Ring Central.
Yeah, yeah. So happy to have you on the show. I think you have an amazing story. I envy like marketing, content marketing, social media marketing. And so I think we vibe on that level and we geek out. And so it's really cool just to kind of hear your story on how you got into this. And so, for all of our listeners who are return listeners, welcome back. You know what I'm about to ask next, but for those, it's your first time here, we always start with this question. It's when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
So when I was a kid, I was very much a theatrical kid, which definitely helps with all of this today. There's a great through line here.
Yeah.
I was in the theater, and I always wanted to be a writer. I come from a family of musicians and very artistic people and very craftsman type of folks. So that was always sort of around me growing up. And I always wanted to be a writer.
Nice.
And that's something that I wanted to do, was to write and perform and
Yeah.
all of that. I'm the youngest child, so we'll take that into consideration of wanting a lot of attention. So that's always where sort of my sort of passion was, for
I
sure,
love that.
growing up.
I feel like we also have that in common. I grew up wanting to be an actor and was involved in theater like stuff, and so I think that's why we click a lot. I'm an only child, so attention was a focus of mine too. Okay, so talk to me a little bit about the writer part. Like you've got writers in your family, or I'd love to know a
Yeah,
little bit
so
about
it's
that.
just sort of a writers in my family, not published, but definitely a passion for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
And
Nice.
so we always were big readers in my house. We'd watch a lot of movies, a lot of TV. I'm a big movie buff, and
Hmm.
that is sort of what led me into college. I went to Emerson College here in Boston. I'm a Boston native. If you
Yep.
can't hear it already, maybe you'll hear it a little bit later.
It's a draw, right? The bot, like, it's not an A. How would you describe the
So
accent? 'Cause
you remove an R. Either some people double down on the R and put R's where there shouldn't be, or you
yeah,
drop R's where there should be.
yeah.
So I went to Emerson College, which is a speech and communications and a drama school, and that was the first thing my speech professor told me was, "Well, you need to drop that Boston accent." And I'm like, "I will. Good luck, lady.
Yeah,
Good
take it to
luck."
the grave. That's really
So
cool.
yeah, so I actually went for film and television production and
Awesome.
then for writing and publishing,
All
which
right.
at that time, I won't tell you the year, but at
Okay.
that time it was a cusp. So it was early aughts. So
Mhm.
it was this where we're still teaching, desktop publishing layout, how to
Mhm.
get your articles submitted for magazines, how to break into journalism,
Mhm.
how to lay out a magazine, how a newspaper is run, and those types of things. But then there was also, hey, let's teach you website design. Let's
Okay.
learn how websites should be laid out.
Mhm.
And in my video production, it was still digital video, but like a megabyte hard drive was like $100.
That's
And
crazy.
so, big time, so it was great because you had that little bit of analog as it transitioned into digital. So you were able to kind of take, I look at it as like great headline writing. That is something they drill into
Mhm.
journalists, is
Mhm.
how to write a great headline that grabs
That's right.
people.
Yep.
Same thing translates into marketing, into social,
Yep.
short. How do you grab people's attention? And I think that sort of basis
Mhm.
education and the concept of telling stories or communicating something with visuals plus writing,
Yep.
that was the sweet spot for me. And that is sort of how this all kind of developed.
Crazy. So we're gonna take it back, and I'm just gonna ask you, like, as a kid, then, like, what were you think some of the foundation of like you really falling in love with that? Did you walk around with the video camera in your hand? Were you like more, like photojournalism? Was it you were writing poems and like sharing with your family? Were you the top A student coming up with these like brilliant mysteries in school? Like, talk to me about like the development, like as a kid, like what really like fueled this passion and like what were the outlets of it?
I think being the youngest child, and I have two older brothers, and they're much older than me. So I spent a
Okay.
lot of time by myself. And if you're an only child, you can kind of sympathize with that, of
Yeah.
being in this make believe, coming up with scenarios with your dolls or
A lot of
outside, or,
imagination. Yep.
yeah, just developing that sort of fantasy and that imagination. And
Hmm.
luckily, I had parents that, to the best of their ability, went with that.
Sure.
I would write stories. My first story I ever wrote was in my fifth grade newspaper. I wrote this little fictional
Okay. Getting
story that
published in fifth grade? That's
fifth
amazing.
grade, fifth grade. My
Yeah.
mom still had like the paper, and it was on like a dot matrix
Yeah.
printer
Of course. Of course.
that kind
Yeah.
of went out. So luckily, my mom had saved that for years, so I still have that.
Oh,
So
that's
it was, just sort of writing. I'd write plays and make my family put them on. But, definitely from a director standpoint of,
Mhm.
okay, I want to tell everybody what to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Okay.
but I'm also in it myself, and I think that concept of just letting your imagination go. Growing
Yeah.
up, I was always in the theater.
Hmm.
So I did theater all of my life. I was one of these types of kids, jazz hands, singing, yes. And we traveled the country. So I was able to go to different parts of the country. One of the fun facts that I give about myself is I did a solo performance in Disney World
What?
on my, yeah,
I mean, that's top notch because they don't let anybody do that, you
right?
know?
You got to be in the little carts in the background, and you get to come in through the back entrance and all of that stuff. So that was very cool from a performance standpoint. I did not do very well because I was competing against future Miss America contestants, and 5'2" me with a
Ah,
Boston accent, draw the
hey,
consonants in my singing, was not going to compete with future Miss America contestants. No.
you're bringing some culture though. You're bringing some of that East Coast culture
It
that was
it
needed.
brought the vibe. It definitely
Yeah.
brought the vibe. I'll tell the story of, it was Don't Cry for Me Argentina. And it
Mhm.
started out with the piano, very simple. And my brother, one of my brothers is a musician, so we have a very artistic family. And so one of my brothers who's a musician was playing it out and sampling it so that the sort of the techno dance
Mhm.
beat came in
Mhm.
midway in the story of the song. So it wasn't just like another ballad. It sort of kicked into this dance beat, which was different than anybody else had done.
Doing that. Yeah,
Yeah. So
that's
that
really
that's definitely a way that like my family was very
yeah.
supportive
Yeah.
of sort of being in the arts. We're all very artistic people.
Yeah. Now that's interesting. I have a couple questions. Is this something that you were doing through the like school, like education, or like extracurricular, like this
Through the
traveling?
school. Yeah, all
Oh,
through the school.
wow.
I went to public school.
Look at that.
So it was all through the school. I met
Hmm.
some amazing friends that I still have to this day.
Cool.
And it was just a great learning opportunity,
Hmm.
and just a great way of just performance. I love that there's some meme or video going around right now that's saying like, hire former theater kids. They want
All
to
right.
perform. And I'm like, yes, go
That's
hire theater kids.
me every day at work. Like, just put me on camera. I got you. I've got a skill set that I normally can't. articulate on a resume. So I love what you said just about your family being supportive. And I feel like we're really able to uncover these types of things that build foundation, especially when it comes to something like theater. And I think putting yourself out there, I mean, anything where you're putting your work out or allowing it to be uh, evaluated by an audience of people is, it's really scary, and it can either go one of two ways. It can be a horrible experience where you never want to do something again, or it could be like in your case something that fueled you to like find your passion. Can you talk a little bit more about like what helped you, alongside the encouragement of your family? What do you think are some other things that really like played into this confidence you have of really just like diving all into this type of personality that you've developed that's in the foundation of theater?
So I think let's backtrack. My parents were not supportive of me becoming a performer to make a
Uh-oh.
living.
Okay, here it is.
My
There you
parents
go.
are
What did your
working
parents say?
class. No, working class Bostonian people don't set your children's dreams to be like, I want to be on stage or whatever. It's like, that's a great, do you got a backup plan? Like,
Yeah,
maybe you
talk
should
about
take,
that.
yeah, you should take an electrician course. Like, make sure you learn word processing, you know how to type. Like,
Yep.
very realistic people. And I think I found a nice balance of that here in my career. But they
Yeah.
were, I think, if you're in the theater,
Mhm.
and I'll be more specific. If you're a woman in the theater or a teenage girl, you want to
Mhm.
talk about criticism, you have to take it with a grain of salt. They're watching how you appear. Everything you're doing is in unison.
Everything's
Every
criticized.
note, all of that. So you develop eventually over time. You develop a thicker skin
Mhm.
of when you have ideas and when you're collaborating with groups, or hey, we want to do this dance move, hey, I have this idea, I have that, and someone says, well, no, we're going to do this. It's like you have to build up that, well, okay, this might not be a great idea now, but I still feel that this is a good idea.
Mm.
And it's that feedback, and that you have to be able to take that. And I think for young people it's extremely hard.
Yeah, to hear the no's, right? Yeah.
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 But then, you get older, and I went to college. This is my favorite story from college, by the way. No
Okay.
offense to Emerson College. But I took a writing course, and it was a night course because I worked during the days, and it was an evening course. And I had a professor who kind of tell he didn't want to be there. That second novel just was not working out
Mm.
the way he was
Mhm.
hoping or whatnot. And it was just sort of like an overrized writing journalism type of class. So can you put together a story and a pitch and all that stuff?
Mhm.
And I had written a pitch and I'd written a story, but nonfiction.
Yeah.
And I had picked it up, to get my grade or whatever. And he looked at me right in the face and said, your writing style is for the masses.
Wow.
And being from Boston and being very quick, my immediate response was, so I'll work, and was just like, but to have the gumption at 21 to come back and say that,
Of
um,
course.
I don't know if it was because I just worked. Sorry, my Darth Vader lamp just went off. I don't know if it was because I had just worked like an 8-hour shift and I was going at night, and it was just like I'm working for this education. I'm not
Yeah, of
going to
course.
listen to this feedback from, but it was like, so I'll work. That's the whole point. Is
Mhm.
you will work, you will make a living, everything, whatever level
Mm.
you want to get at,
Mhm.
just keep at it. It might not be highbrow. Well, I'm not writing Proust here, but
Mhm.
there's, you can pay the bills with your writing and your art. So be it.
Man, I love that because it shows just adversity, especially on a couple of different levels that you mentioned, right? Being a woman in theater, growing up at the time you did, and the criticism you faced, and the adversity that you're seeing at 21, but being quick on your feet. So, because we're in theater and we have this in common, did you watch the series Rise of the Pink Ladies on Paramount?
No, I did not.
Okay, so
But I think there was a guest on your show.
she was, and she talked something similar, like not much has changed. Like she gets a ton of no's, and and I think her story was like those no's helped her like build a thicker skin, similar to what you're saying. And so I want to dive into that because there's some like similarity here. Uh, so you're 21, you're getting pushback already in this college from a professor. Did that continue on like through college? Were you constantly like fighting uphill to prove to family, to prove like, hey, I'm gonna make a career out of this? Like, what was like the sentiment of you during this time in college on you for yourself and then others like looking in, right? Because now we're gonna put you on stage for your life. Like, how were others viewing this journey and path of you going to this theater school, like against maybe what your parents thought were right? You hearing from professors, were you like maybe like were you reconsidering at any point, or were you all in?
I think it was I didn't know where I was going to land.
Okay.
And I think that's a lot of young people of this is where I should be. This is the environment I want to be in.
Mm,
I worked my way through school, so I was around a lot of other kids that in the summer they would, oh, I'm going off to shoot my short film, or I'm, oh, over the weekend, I'm going to do this, and I'm like, I'm working two jobs to get me through
yeah.
college. I don't
Wow.
have time to kind of go off and shoot my project. I don't have the equipment that my parents would buy me, which at that time was extremely expensive to buy
Yeah. Yeah.
camera, audio equipment, um, to do that. But it was I wanted I knew this environment was where I wanted to be, is
Yeah.
to kind of be in that space. And again, I went for TV and film production, which is a nice caveat because now this has all come back around. It's
Full
all
circle.
come back around. But it was, well, do I want to move to California? Well, I didn't have the money, and my parents weren't super excited for me to go to the West Coast. And I had friends that went to the West Coast, which was great. And I thought,
Mhm.
well, am I gonna fit in? I wasn't quite sure. You just have I didn't want to live in New York because I'm very Bostonian. No offense to New York, but it's a whole rivalry. It's a whole rivalry. But I just kind of wanted, but what is it? Where were they going to land? It was, this is the world that I wanted to be in, but how can I make a living?
Mhm.
And this is the pivot that really marketing, which Emerson has an amazing marketing and PR
Okay.
course. Never took one there at all,
Wow. Wow.
but it ended up. I sort of ended up in that situation, and I started out. I'm sure you'll lean into this question too.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
I was a like an admin, so I was like an assistant to a vice president, and that has worked. It worked. It was he was a vice president of marketing, and that's how
Yeah.
I got in.
That was the open door. Now, I have to ask though, in this transition, did you have a job lined up, like moving to the West Coast, or like what?
No,
It was just like I need to move to the West Coast because that's where my people are.
no, I don't think I had enough. I'd known enough people and talked to enough people that
Okay.
that's a make or break. You have to have a strong core to
Yeah.
go and do that.
Mhm.
And when I came out of college, there was a recession, so it wasn't a great economic time,
Okay.
which is something you can kind of relate. I can kind of talk to younger people about now. This is my at least been through two that I'm aware of that people have acknowledged.
Okay. Sure.
And it was, well, I need to work. I need to, I have college loans to pay, which never go away for a while. And I need to support myself.
Hmm.
And how do I do that? And I had admin experience. You know how to word process and use Microsoft Office. And I was very organized, and I was a good project manager, an events coordinator, and that's how I kind of got my foothold into marketing, is supporting a VP of marketing and running sort of sales events internally, and that was sort of the springboard to
So did you like save money and come to the West Coast? I'm like just figuring out like who picks up their stuff and just goes and is like, I'll
I
find a
think
job
people
when
that
I get
have
there.
they're more. I think they're a bigger dreamer than myself. I think that if anything, for like
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
New England people are very grounded.
Yeah.
So, but even just like a Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, which really took off when I was going to school, and it
Sure.
was, wow, that's a big dream. I was never that big of a dreamer.
Okay.
It was more a little bit more grounded
Gotcha.
in
Okay.
realism. Is that something I'd like to instill more in other people, is to dream big? Yes, but I'm a very much a realist of, yeah, do that if you have a great nest egg. Do you have a backup? Can you be an electrician if this doesn't work out?
Going back to those core jobs, right?
I can't help it. I'm too much of a realist, and so it's I think it's definitely a blessing if you have the opportunity to kind of go off as a young person and live that dream. Appreciate it because it's you're doing that when you're young. Do it
Sure.
then,
Yep.
and definitely appreciate that time to kind of figure out where your path is going to lead. I've been very lucky that my path has ended me here,
Yeah.
but it could have been a little bit bigger, dreamed a little bit bigger, but there's no
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. I love that. So I wanna now you used the perfect word that I love. There's actually a podcast that I listen to a lot called The Pivot, and it talks about pivot points. So you got your foot in the door, you're working for this VP in marketing. Talk to me about now how you scale because I feel like you're where you need to be, but how do you get out of being an admin and stepping into different kinds of roles?
I think the advantage that I had was it was obviously in person work, 5 days a week, 40 hours plus.
What is
In,
that?
in right now, what an hour commute each way in traffic. What?
No.
So you have great mentors. I think that's a huge thing. Is you have people who believe in you as much as you believe in yourself, and they
Hmm.
give you those opportunities. I was extremely blessed at that time
Hmm.
to have some great managers who really saw talent in me to right. I'll be candid. So I worked at Comcast for about 5 years in a bunch of different roles and worked my way up there. Which, if you want to talk about building up a thick skin, it's working for a company nobody likes. And that helped me out later on too. Of just like you have to have a thick skin, and I worked there doing regional events, so in person events. You
Yeah.
want to talk about building a thick skin? It's when someone's walking towards you, and you have to read their face
Oh,
really
man.
fast. Of oh, do they hate us? They're coming with a complaint, like it's
Yeah, they
coming. But
finally got you in person. Couldn't
right, I
get you
got
on the
somebody.
phone,
I'm not
couldn't get
waiting
you
on
in the
hold
email.
anymore. So, but it was just great. Of that was a great learning experience of how do I turn a negative into a positive? How do you do great customer service, which serves you everywhere in your life? If you're
I
served
agree
out
100%.
in any sort of customer service, dealing with the public, even you work at Dunkin' Donuts, or you work at McDonald's, or you're doing retail, or you're a call center person. It is a great foundation to learn how to work with people and how to
Mhm,
flip a conversation, get them on your side,
mhm,
how to sell a little
mhm.
bit. And we'll
Yeah,
get to that of like selling your strategy and marketing is a huge thing you have to do. But that opportunity was great to be, at this national company. The
yep,
group that I was with was all around Boston, all around New England, and I had some
mm,
amazing mentors that supported me sort of growing in the ranks and learning more and more. And
mhm,
it's very ironic of how this all works. And when we sort of get towards the end of the story, I'll come back and tell you how this everything does connect. You
okay.
might not think it
I'm
now,
loving
but
it.
it totally does.
We're
And
doing we're
so
we're doing our
my time at
tradition right.
Comcast came to an end because they bought NBC and they did a number of reorgs and layoffs and whatnot, which we did not know at the time. We just thought, oh, they're doing a bunch of layoffs and and then like a month after I was laid off, it was like Comcast is buying NBC, and I'm like, oh, well, now that makes sense. Okay, I'm
Huge.
fine with that.
Big deal.
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
So, and I ended up pivoting to more B2B marketing, which was so different than what I was used to. But
It's
you
a
take that core and you bring it with you.
such an interesting thing that you mentioned pivoting from consumer to B2B because I think there's a whole topic on it on, what
Yeah.
overlaps, what doesn't, but for everyone listen, there is a clear distinction between, the two and a huge difference. And so what company did you then go and work for?
So I had some stopgaps in the middle of it because again, it was in the middle of a recession period, and
Mhm.
I ended up at a tech company that did outbound dialer and
Okay.
text messaging and mobile websites. And
Mm,
what was great about that was they were a B2B company, but their audience was B2C. So you were
interesting.
so you were able to the experience of knowing that B2C angle and then
Mhm.
being able to bring it as a through line in B2B was helpful
Okay.
completely.
And what was the role what were you doing there?
I was a marketing manager there, so it was a catch all,
Uh,
which
Now
I
this all experience, right?
all of it. It was
Yeah.
me and one other marketing manager who I'm
Yep.
still close friends with to this day. And
Mhm.
it was the two of us in the thick of it. Great management. We had a great manager. Um, and it was doing everything. It was you did website, you did copy, you did blog, you did the database work, you did the events,
Mhm.
and a little piece of it. So we sort of as I worked really closely with this other coworker, our manager sort of saw where each skill set was. So it was, well, rather than
Mm,
both of you doing everything, she could sort of tell that
mm,
I focused more on copy and I ended up working doing blogs. I ended
mhm.
up doing more website writing and sort of the ops piece was to my coworker because her skill set was really in operations side of it, which I was like, it's important.
Yeah.
It's not really where I want to wake up in the
Yeah.
morning, but
Yeah, of course, you're a writer.
again, that mentorship that they saw that, okay, this is where people's talents lay. And you
Mhm.
organized your team for that. And it was at that time that social media was starting to take off. And
Okay.
it was
So this
really
is this
starting to
is
take off.
like where you're starting to see now a passion for writing.
Yes.
You've gained all these skills. They're now in action. You are in. Would you say this is the time where you're like, man, I found what I've loved to do? Like this is it.
I think
I'm
it was
really
sort of the
enjoying
next
it.
role. So it
Okay.
was the company that I was at got bought by a bigger
Okay.
company. So it was
Man,
sort of that tech Goliath when all these tech companies are buying other tech companies.
you're a part of a acquiring. Well,
Yes.
not behind the
Yeah.
scenes it was happening, but then now you've been wow.
Yeah,
This
and
is
then it
great.
was acquired. And so here's the opportunity that you have when you're being acquired or there's a reorg.
Okay.
This is an opportunity. Do not see it as, oh my God, they're gonna cut me. My job is on the line. Are
I
you good
love.
at what you do? Do
Mm,
you want to do more? Is this
yeah.
now an opportunity to take on more and to
Mm,
do more?
such a
And
good perspective.
yeah. And so with the acquisition, again, I great mentorship.
Yep.
And that VP did not want to stay at the big company, and she knew that. But what she did was she set me and the other marketing manager up for success because
I
she
love.
sent us out to Bay Area, Bostonian kids going out to the Bay Area to represent the company and to
Mhm,
come in with our marketing plans and to be in those meetings.
mhm.
And that was one of the greatest gifts I've had because it was she saw in us and knew that we could sit at that table. I mean, I'm there with the CMO of a $1 billion company and it's well, but I know how our sales force is set up and I know who
Yeah.
our audience is and hey, we're looking at all these acquisitions and how to merge all these together.
Would you say at that point it was the confidence to be in that room, sitting with the CEO at that table, was because you knew that the VP had sent you. She had
Yeah.
confidence in you. Like because that's not normal. I
No.
think that is a very like big deal and it is very intimidating but one, you have built confidence in your career, you knew what to do, but two, that you recognized that your boss recognized in you that you could handle your own.
I think so. I don't think we recognized it at the time
Okay.
that it
Okay.
was,
Okay.
oh, she
That's
sent
good.
us out here, but it was, you all should go and
Mm,
go and represent the company. And I also think when you're in the mix of it, when you're at a smaller place and you're doing a little bit of everything, it
sure.
gives you a big picture. And so you get, well, how do the leads come in? Then where do they go? What are the messages that are resonating the most with them? How does sales like to operate? And so when you're coming into whether or not it's a reorg or an acquisition or whatever, you
Mhm.
have that experience to bring in. And so when people are talking about, well, at that time it was, okay, well, how are we going to merge all these websites together and what's all the content? And I'm an extremely organized person to a OCD borderline level. So it was, well, I'll volunteer to take all of this content that it was the company that I was at, and then two other companies all got bought at the same time too.
Wow.
So it was three different companies. Okay, we need to merge all this content together, all these case studies, all these white papers, all these blogs. And then it was the social, and nobody was really focused on social at that time. It
Mhm.
was an afterthought. It was, yeah, well, I guess we should post something, but it wasn't seen for branding. It definitely was not seen for demand gen. I
What
don't think there
socials
was
are we
even a
talking?
paid model at that time.
Yeah, what socials were like most popular during this time?
Twitter. which
Twitter.
don't ask me to
Just
call it anything else. It was Twitter at the time, and
okay.
how that was really taking off.
Mhm.
It was, getting out your news, getting out big acquisition news, which again, that was a big M&A time in
Yep.
tech. So
Yep.
it's, let's get this word out on that. Let's get, analysts and influencers, or publication. So media, how to get the media's attention. The quickest way to get a reporter's attention is to tag them in something that they wrote and to share it, and just because they're going to get that hit. They're going to get it
Yeah.
right there on their phone. You
So
can
fun.
send email. Your PR org can send email after email. But if
Yep.
I tag them or I comment as a company on, this is a great article, and you just like grease that ego a little bit, oh, they're going to write your DM back.
Oh, heck yeah. It's so funny because that's exactly how it works today. I
Yep.
think, just on a different platform with
Yep.
different, but
Yep.
egos play a big part. Well, it seems like you saw an opportunity, you kind of jumped at, and it's led into this amazing career that you have today with social media focused, obviously content marketing. So I'd love to know. Sounds like that was like the launch pad. It was the
It was.
pivot that really. Now you mentioned this was where you found your passion.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about what you do today, or like within even just the last probably 5 years of social media, because I feel like social media today is a huge part of corporate initiatives, and if it's not, it should be. I think you and I both know that. But what are you doing today, and how maybe did that launch pad really fuel into being really passionate and great at what you do?
I think the biggest thing for
Mhm.
social media and marketing in general, especially digital marketing, is it's constantly changing. As soon as you think, oh, well, this is our plan for this year, it's going to stay the same next year, the exact same things we're going to do. Nope.
Mm,
It's, email marketing is the biggest thing we're going to do. Then the next year, email marketing is dead. Oh, you should be sending out text messages. Text
yeah.
messages are dead. Everything should have a QR code. QR codes are dead. Oh, we have a pandemic. QR codes are the most important thing that we've ever done. Like it all comes around. So it's one of those you have to adapt. So whether or not it's a new channel, so you
Mhm,
could, I think the idea of like sort of diversification, it's the same thing in marketing. Who's your audience?
mhm,
Where is your audience?
mm.
And what's the message to get out on that platform?
Yeah, love
So
that.
over these years, I've been in B2B tech, and Snapchat becomes the hottest thing ever. And it's like, well, we should be on Snapchat. Are our buyers on Snapchat? Are employees that we're trying to recruit? That's another area as well. Are they on Snapchat? No. Then we don't need to be on Snapchat. Go get your company name. Go get your company handle. I can't recommend that enough. Every new shiny platform, go sign up and go get your company's handle
Yep, yep.
for sure.
That's what I
But
real quick, I have to pause because that's what I really love about you is the no's that you're able to bring in, when in the time that we've worked together, the they're I wouldn't say they're hard no's, but they're very clear. Like it's just, hey, we're not doing that because it doesn't make sense. And I think that's what I've always admired about your approach to things. It's just it's very clear, it's very confident, and it's very backed by great decision making. So I just want to highlight you on that because you've always
and
done
that
it.
comes from experience. So I
Yeah.
think when I first sort of started out, I made a joke on this on my LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago of, Google Plus was the hottest thing ever at one time. And it was, I like sent it off to the people that I worked with, but it was like all hands on deck, Google Plus. We need to make sure we're there. We're building an audience. It's all in, all this other stuff. And then it was just like, nope, Google's like, we're not making any money on this. This can go. And it was like,
Yeah.
okay, we're moving on to the next thing. So
Yeah.
it's constantly changing all the time, but you're learning that with more experience. But I
Yeah.
think just like anything else in marketing, it goes back to who's your audience and are they there? And then the other side of it is the right message at the right time on the right channel.
Mm,
That's your core in marketing, no matter
mhm,
what. No
mm,
matter what your channel is. It's the right message at the right time on the right channel.
mhm.
That's really what you look at across all of these. No one would have guessed, in 20, when did Twitter become the other?
Man.
21?
Yeah, 21, 22.
21. So before that, it was, we worked together during that time of we're putting out videos and custom messaging and we're boosting things and our audience is there and the media is capturing our stuff. We're going to, the algorithm changes and
Mhm.
now we're doing something else. Facebook is very similar. Of Facebook was this big all ending thing that everything goes there. And over the time, well, it's evolved into a more niche audience. People, want that. Over the pandemic, LinkedIn took a hard turn. It
Mhm.
used to just be job searching
Right.
and work related stuff. And then people started sharing more about their home and their family because they were working from home. And I
Right.
call it the Facebookification of LinkedIn
Mm.
because, LinkedIn became more customer service too,
Yeah.
where before it
Yeah.
was never like that. That was more for Twitter, that was more for Facebook.
Mhm.
And then you have Instagram, which is a whole other entity because it's a visual channel.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
if your company is not making graphics or video that's of interest,
I
it's not going
I
to get there.
have to be careful because I have some opinions of, like, moving stuff, but to your point, I was having a conversation with someone in my circle, and I was talking about this yesterday, exactly that. So, I can't dive
But
down that rabbit
everything
hole
doesn't need to
conversation.
be everywhere. I think
Thank
that's the
you.
big
Yes.
thing. Everything
Yes.
doesn't need to be everywhere. Is your audience there? And what do you want to get out of it? So that's something exercise I'm going through right now. And I do that at every company that I'm at
Mhm.
is let's take a look at the channels. Who's
Yeah.
your following? What do you want out of it? Is Facebook more for employees to show your company culture,
Yes.
to, show, or you're going to use Instagram for recruiting? Because again, young
Mm.
people are like, well, I want to go find out more about this company. Let me go
Yeah.
and look this up and to see, oh no, do you still believe in DE&I? Are you doing give back? Do you have what are you talking about? Are you a global company? What's goodness that you're showing? Each of those channels has their opportunity to do that. We haven't even really gotten to talking about TikTok, which is how we became close.
I love TikTok.
So that's how we became close was
That's
was
right.
launching that TikTok channel, which that was a fun story at Ring Central because we didn't own that domain. And that took 6 to 9 months of
Crazy.
trying to get someone's attention, to get them to respond, to get the handle,
That's to your point. Go get the handle.
go get the handle. And any new platform that comes up, just go and get your company's handle. And then, you know, just make sure you keep a password somewhere so that if you transition by
Yeah.
choice or not by choice, somebody has access to that because you don't need people coming back to you.
I'm gonna give a goose egg here, and I'm just gonna put people on games so they can go get the handle. There's a big one blowing up in the AV world from where we previously come from called Blue Sky.
Yeah.
You, yeah, you know about Blue Sky?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So go get that handle.
Just go get it. Like just go get the company handle, get the name, it's spelled correctly. It's a whole thing. And especially when if you're in social media and you have to do social listening,
Mhm.
if you have a company that has the same name as something else, it's a whole thing. It's
Yeah.
a whole thing. I mean, we can talk about this now because we both no longer work there. But when we were at Ring Central, it was, oh, are you the doorbell company? And it's
Right.
like, no, that's Ring. And it's like, well, you're Ring
Right.
Central. And it's like, how do you,
Man, that
you
was
know,
so hard. Yeah,
it was it was
that was
so
a big
hard.
challenge. That was a big
Um,
challenge.
yeah. Also, please don't brand stadiums and sporting venues if it's going down.
If you have that conundrum,
Anyway, that's in the past. That's a separate private conversation that we can exchange stories like that. That's
yeah, we
your
gotta have fun with that one.
that's behind another that's behind a pay that's a Patreon content. We can tell those stories. Um, but I think it's yeah, it's where is your audience? How are they evolving? Everything doesn't need to be everywhere, and how to tell those stories. And I think the great example, and I bring this up with people all the time, and we did
Mhm.
this together. I mean, you're in
Mhm.
product, and I was in social, and it was we wanted to show the product.
Just wrote a post on that. Yeah,
That
I
was
was
what
like,
we did. We wanted to show the product. If it's an
mhm.
app, show the app. I mean, if it's a desktop based, show it. Show people what they should be doing because it's either for pre-sales to get oh, this is an easy UI. I don't
Mhm.
I'm just getting a little clips of it. Or your customers, that's something we definitely focused on a lot of for new product launches and tips and tricks to keep customers there, which at that time we saw a lot of attrition. So we put up a lot of content that was, oh, I didn't know you had that. And that's a huge thing with tech as well, is not everyone's using it the same. Show, don't tell.
Yeah.
Show that platform, show the different tips and tricks, show the ways that it helps. Cause most people will be like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. You know, we again at Ring Central, it was you can change your background. Did you know that you could put a filter? Did you know how to change the audio settings? And a lot of people had no idea to do that. Or any of the new product features that, you know, you were putting out. It was, okay, well now let's do a video. It doesn't have to be polished.
Hmm.
And I think that's what people get nervous about. And this is where everything comes back of
It's
now video is the
yeah.
biggest thing everybody wants to talk about. And I was like, oh, I know video. I know video very well. And
Full
I
circle
know
right here.
it's all right here. It just all comes right back around of, you know, it can be super high touch. You have, you know, your big event videos that you're showing that are sort of your fun, you know, getting hyped before the event starts. And then you
Mm,
have, you know, TV high broadcast, you know,
mm,
videos. But I think
mhm,
people today
mhm,
on social, everything's most people are on their phone a
mhm,
lot, even for watching TV. TV is now on YouTube and it's still just mobile based, although TV's taking off, which is nice. Um, but they're still seeing it in the same way. It doesn't have to be all 4K or whatever. This type of conversation, people will watch. They
mhm.
watch People watch Get Ready With Me videos as someone
Oh
talks
god.
about the most, you know, let me give you a tip. That's my go-to joke for all these tech companies is like,
Yeah.
let me get ready with you while I talk about how, you know, this SaaS
Why
company
not?
is best for your beat.
Yeah. It's works. It's
It works.
people want to be at eye level with the people that they're listening and consuming information from.
And it's authentic. I think that's the big change in the past 5 years with the pandemic and the rise of mobile video and the rise of TikTok or
Mm.
any sort of video platform. We'll just kind of go across of it for any
Yeah.
video based platform.
Right.
It's authenticity in your content. Now, are people able to kind of see through a little bit of the BS now with, oh, this is AI
Hmm.
created, this isn't real, or this is an influencer who I watched 45 seconds to basically find out that, oh, this is just an ad.
We don't like being duped either. Like
We
that's
don't
the
like
other
being
thing.
duped.
Be careful.
I don't
So
want to hear this.
be honest, be upfront, say it's an ad, tag it as an ad.
Yeah.
I'm more likely to watch it and
Yep.
like see you as an endorser, especially if I respect you and your following or what it is, then I'm giving you that credibility to say you're endorsing this. Like just call it for what it is. Don't dupe me because then I'm gonna be upset, right?
Yeah.
So
You don't want that. And I think, you know, the big thing with influencers, and we did that also together of looking
mhm,
at influencer projects. Find influencers that vet them very well. It's my number one tip. Vet your influencers. And also make sure they align with what you're doing. Your, you know, whatever it is that your product is. Again, if you're a makeup company, you should get with the makeup influencer. If you're
right.
in B2B tech SaaS, don't get a makeup influencer because they have 3 million followers. They're not the right 3 million followers.
It's a wrong approach. So
It's the
funny.
wrong,
Actually, side
yeah.
approach. Someone in common that we know from a previous company has like blown up on TikTok actually. One of our I wouldn't call him an influencer, one of our actors that we used for a total.
Our
Yeah,
bestie guy. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So we could chat about that later too. Funny. So you brought this full circle, and I would say even in the last 10 minutes, have gave some amazing like takeaways, actionable insights for all the marketers listening. I wanna kind of go back to where we started and put it for the listener who's out there who says, "Man, I love social media marketing. I want to get into that. I want to be a content manager." And I think actually a very popular choice of career during this time because of how important social media is. So, talk to me if you were to give like a piece of advice. I'll give you two. I'll give you two, room for three, however you want, but I want like top two. Like these are crucial things that somebody should know. What advice would you give somebody who's trying to break into that career? And maybe they're not on the path of like a traditional comms background or journalism, but they're at this pivot point in their life where they've realized, hey, I'm really passionate about this and I want to get into it. What is like the top two pieces of advice that you would give that person trying to break into this industry?
I think the big thing is start with your own brand. Start with yourself.
I love that.
Visuals and story.
Mm,
That's really the two pieces. Market yourself. That's where a lot of personal branding, whether or not you're doing it for yourself, because maybe you're looking for a job or you're building a business or you're working to help market someone else, executive social media or anyone else who needs help with thought leadership. That's
yeah.
a big thing too. You might end up supporting somebody else, but and figuring out how people talk to people and how brands talk to people are a little bit different.
Okay.
There's still you want to talk like a real person. You don't want to talk like an AI robot,
Yeah.
or you don't want to be too far. You want to find that nice middle ground. But I think it's learning how to tell a good story quickly,
Mm,
getting to the point. Because when you start 3 seconds, that's all everyone has the attention span. Oh, well, now recently TikTok has changed their algorithm, be like, oh, we're not going to give you any money as an influencer until it's 3 minutes. Now, granted, as a business, you're not being an influencer, you're not doing that. But well, if now 3 minutes, now you want longer videos. When YouTube started, it was quick hits, fun things. Now it's an hour. I want your podcast. Give me your hour of your podcast. Now your podcast is a video podcast. So
yeah.
it's constantly evolving and changing. But I think if you can quickly summarize a story
Yeah.
in 30 seconds or less, it's kind of like the new elevator pitch. If you think
Yeah.
about that from a sales perspective of
100%.
the quick elevator pitch. And I think the big thing for writing, and this is like a journalism core, but it's the who, what, when, where, why, and how.
Mm,
Stick to that when you're writing. Who are you talking to? What are you talking about? Why are you talking about this?
mm,
When is it something that's going on? And then the how do you learn more? Is it a follow? Is it a click? Is it a come back later? Is it, hey, attend this event? I think that's still a core principle.
yeah.
But I think also, if you're not going to build out your own brand, take some classes, follow some great
Yeah.
social media
Great.
influencers,
Huge.
follow
Yeah.
some organizations. I'm a big fan of Social Media Examiner, which they did not pay me to say this, but maybe they'll
I'm
cut my ticket to the event.
writing it down.
But never know. But follow them. There's a lot of great influencers out there that are doing it. HubSpot has been a fantastic group. SEM Rush is another fantastic group. That sort of spun off from Moz. I think you know follow others that are doing it well and that are
Yeah.
giving solid advice, and just start doing it. That's the other thing too. Start doing it. And especially if you want to start a business and build, start with someone's small business who maybe needs some help, like a local
And
business.
there's so many SMBs and
You
your
know?
local businesses who are jumping at an opportunity to have somebody come and help them. And you don't overthink it, right? I think a lot of folks are just looking, knowing how to post. Think about all of your local businesses that have been around for years that are trying
Yep.
to get on board with how we market today and digital marketing. So I jump at that. So go and do. It was like if I were to summarize, go and do, and then follow and learn. I
Yeah.
think are those 2 points that you
Yeah.
made there.
And you're summarizing that. So when you go to a job interview, bring that and put that on your resume. So you put links to your brand. So I've hired people that they had a food blog. That's what she did. She had a food blog, and she got a master's, and that was her experience. So that's another thing too, of like, how do I get experience? Well, she built her own little food blog. It was separate from her personal brand, but it was something she was passionate about. And so
Yeah.
she was doing a foodstagram type of thing. And then she also worked for like another small business. So when she came to interview for me, it was, she brought these two different pieces. One was a business, a little bit smaller, and then one was something that was more creative and fun. And it was,
Mhm.
okay, if she can balance those two. And I went and looked at it real closely, and it was fantastic. I was like, okay, I'm going to hire you, and bring those samples, bring those examples, bring real life examples
Yeah.
versus a playbook that's like AI created. AI is great for brainstorming. I'm a big fan of it for brainstorming,
Yeah.
but you should finite it again for your audience and the timing and the channel. Always think about that. Is those three things. Those are triangle things for that. But start doing and collect that in and start building your portfolio for yourself. And what are you going to learn? That's the biggest thing. You'll learn so much more as you go.
This conversation has been amazing. I just want to thank you for all of the wisdom and sharing. I'm definitely going to highlight this as for all marketers who are, in the content world and the B2B, the B2C. So it's been such an amazing conversation. And just wanted to thank you for dropping all the bombs of wisdom.
It's the truth bombs. That's what you get.
Yeah, I love it. It's really funny as we come to an end here. I have my studio mic on, and so I apologize for all the audience. My studio mic is right here. So I don't know how well the audio on my end will be, but we'll use some AI enhancers to bring it up the whole
Exactly.
time.
Exactly. You don't have to worry about buying expensive equipment today. It's like just you're going to use the
Yeah,
software to take out the background noise anyway. You know, get out there and shoot some footage on your phone. It's fine.
you're gonna make mistakes along the way.
You will. And that's how you learn. That's life, man. That's life.
Rachel, I want the audience to know where they can go and follow you because I think you're a great person to follow just to be able to connect on the platforms that you're at so they can maybe ask questions or reach out or just see how the best in the business are doing it. Where can they find you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn. So it's Rachel Royds AEL. Gotta love my mom for that one. So you can follow me there for all sort of marketing, business
Mhm.
related type things, a lot of social stuff, a lot of content stuff. And then my other public channel is TikTok for however long that lasts.
There you go.
We'll see how that'll be. It'll be
Yeah,
around.
that's gonna be fun.
It'll be
I
around.
think so. I think it's
But
a.
uh, but you
think
can
it's a
follow me
good
on
idea.
TikTok for my sad Martha Stewart wannabe life, where
I love it.
I make videos about doing DIY projects or my Funko
Heck
Pops or
yeah.
making things and being outside in my garden. So that's more my fun, personal
Hmm.
type things where I can get out my creativity
Hmm.
that you can't get out in your job out
100%.
in other ways. So
Got to
that's
have the outlet.
gotta
I
have
love
an outlet. So I'm a big fan of that. So those are my two public channels.
Well, hey, and congratulations to you and your recent, I was gonna say hiring, but your recent role at Dayforce. Congratulations on that new job. Looking forward to seeing all the great work that you're gonna do there.
And I hope our paths cross again.
I
It's a
think they
super.
will.
I bet you we'll see
Small
you
world.
at the user conference. It's a small world, and that's the other thing too. Is it's a small world marketing wise,
Yeah.
even though it seems like it's bigger, but we're still all connected. So you never know that somebody that you're connected with, or somebody who's
Yeah.
following you that might see you post, or somebody you worked with 3 jobs ago. It's like we're gonna end
We
up at
were
a
we
user
were in a
conference.
totally different, non-related industry in AV or CCAS, UCAS. Now we're in HR systems,
Yeah.
payroll, HRS, background checks. Look at us. This
Yeah,
is
you
crazy.
never know. We'll end
You
up
never know.
we'll end up running into each other. We'll take a photo. We'll put that up on
Let's
the
do it.
socials.
Let's do it. So good to have you, Rachel. Thank you so much for being on today's show.
Great. Thanks for having me.